I have one very clear message to say about Texas and Clemson. Don't turn it off at any point in time. Now that sounds like an obvious and foolish and weird thing to say. Here's my reasoning. Texas's offense in the last 6 games has been, shall we say, not up to standard all the time in the second half. So you might look up and Texas might have built a 21-3 lead, and it could be late in the second quarter. What you should know in the back of your mind that barring a collapse from Clemson's defense that, other teams haven't sustained against this Texas offense, there's going to be a run. There will be a run if Texas builds a lead. It's just a matter of how big that run is going to be. So according to our friends at FanDuel, Texas is favored by 11.5 points. I think that's too many. Clemson is not a great team. I don't believe the Tigers are good enough to win the national championship. I do believe they are good enough to win this football game, or at the very least, scare Texas. Clemson has made a habit out of playing 4-quarter football. Texas has made a habit out of playing 2, maybe 2.5-quarter football. Now, their defense tends to hang around for all 4 quarters, and it has played exceptionally well in the last few weeks. They only gave up 22 in overtime in the SEC championship game. They didn't give up any points because it was a pick 6, how Texas A&M got their lone touchdown. That was on the road. They gave up 14 to Kentucky, 10 to Arkansas, 17 to Florida, and 24 to Diego Pavia. He's back, by the way. I have some thoughts on that in a little bit. But I look at this Texas defense, and it has been what I thought it would be all year. Now, coming into the season, I thought, Texas will have a good defense. I watched them for a little while and thought, that defense is really good. And I was saying since September, it's one of the most underrated units in all of college football. And Texas reminds me a little bit of Tennessee. You think of them because of their head coach and their quarterback and the image you have in their mind of what they are. With Tennessee, it's explosive passing plays. With Texas, it's creative play calling and some explosive plays, but it's balance, screen game. They do all sorts of things with creative motions, and Sark will have a great game plan for this game, no doubt. But in reality, both of those teams are stronger and have been more consistent on the defensive side of the ball. So that's the most important unit here for Texas. Their offense, I think their offense is what it is. I expect them to be in the 20 to 30 range, nothing more. I think it's more likely they go under 20 than it is they go over 30 in this game. Because Texas scored over 30 against Florida. Well, that was at home against a team that had their defense on the field a lot because their offense couldn't sustain any drives because it was a 4th-string quarterback. The previous time that they scored 30 or more points was against Oklahoma. That was all the way back on October 12th. By the way, that Florida game was November 9th. So I don't think, they put up 31 against Kentucky, but that barely counts. So the unnecessary stray that Kentucky catches on the show. When you look at the quality opponents that Texas has played this year, Georgia, 19 points. Texas A&M, 17 points. Even Arkansas is respectable, 20 points. Vanderbilt, 27. Georgia, 15. At Michigan, put up 31 earlier in the year. But is Quinn Ewers 100%? Is Isaiah Bond 100%? You've got the quarterback question. I just have questions about the Texas offense that if they answer, they win the game handily. If they don't, they're going to lean on that defense again, and I trust them against this Clemson offense. So I said about Clemson going into the ACC championship game, hey, this needs to be a Cade Klubnik game. He has to come out and play maybe his best football of the year. Oh, what do you know? Cade Klubnik against SMU went for 260 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and Clemson wins the game. Thus, here they are. I don't know what Clemson needs to look like because I trust this Texas defense. They have playmakers everywhere. The defensive line, it's nasty. It can be a force against the run. It can get after the passer. Then you have guys in the secondary like Andrew Makuba who are ball hawks and have taken the ball away against quarterbacks who have played well this season like Cade Klubnik, or guys who have even been more consistently on offense than Cade Klubnik this season. I think Klubnik overall has been good, but he's also had a couple of duds, as most guys do. So for Clemson in this game, I don't think there's one formula. I don't think there's one thing or key. It's just find a way. Maybe it's making plays on special teams. Maybe it's your defense giving your offense short fields with a turnover. or maybe it's getting a couple penalties here and there, or Texas makes a mistake you capitalize on. I don't get the sense that Clemson for 4 quarters without getting some breaks can just overwhelm Texas and win the football game. I do get the sense, and Vegas does as well, if Clemson shows up and plays a 4-quarter game, even if only 2.5 of those or 3 are good offensive quarters, they can go run away with this football game. So I think it's too many, though. I don't have a lot of faith in the Texas offense because of the injury concerns, because of the quarterback question. It doesn't feel like they're hitting their stride right now. We saw that against Georgia. We saw that against Texas A&M, quite frankly. They gave up 7 points. They only scored 17. Yeah, it's good enough to win the game, but I don't know if that's good enough to blow out Clemson here. So I think the Tigers are going to surprise those who think Texas wins big, and they'll hang around and keep it close. But they're going to need to pull the upset, which I fully believe they're capable of. They're going to need a couple of breaks. They're going to need to do things like win the turnover battle, a fumble that maybe gets punched out but bounces back to Clemson and results in something good for them later. Or Texas has a sloppy mistake or a key penalty here on 3rd down to keep a drive. It feels like that's what Clemson needs, but hey, it's college football. Wilder things have happened before. So I'll take Texas to win. I'll take Clemson to cover. I think this is a really kind of sloppy, ugly game. Texas 20, Clemson 10. You heard me right. 20-10. Final score, Texas moves on. Wanted to share a couple thoughts on Diego Pavia because the father of the state of Alabama is back because of a ruling that could have widespread ramifications. So Diego Pavia's lawsuit against the NCAA stipulated that he is being deprived playing at the JUCO level from financial opportunities otherwise available to him at the Division I ranks, and so he has been granted extra eligibility. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to know how this applies to the rest of college football. I'm just telling you to keep an eye on this because you could suddenly have players get an extra year or 2 of eligibility. Like, what if they throw out JUCO years as a whole and say that's an extension of high school rather than your first 2 years of college? Suddenly you could have 6-year players without ever taking a red shirt. That feels excessive. That feels extreme. I don't know. Maybe that's where we're going. But Pavia back at Vanderbilt, Auburn and Alabama don't want to see that guy anymore. Well, the SEC is going to see him again. He's playing in a bowl game, and he's going to play in another season of college football. And you know what? Frankly, I'm here for it. I'm here for guys like Diego Pavia who are not going to be first-round picks in the NFL draft, who are just kind of going through, and they just find ways to win. That guy's found a way to win plenty of football games. They take on Georgia Tech in the Birmingham Bowl. Should be a pretty good game. Should be a pretty darn good game. That's on December 27th. That is next Friday. So I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued to see what comes next after that ruling. How much eligibility do guys get back? Just keep an eye. Just keep an eye. Keep a weather eye out on the horizon, Captain Sparrow, because that one's fascinating. But Diego Pavia still in college football. How about that?